It's really nice when you say I'm part of the lesbian renaissance, because I always think people don't realise that I am queer. I will post about it and people will be like, what? She's a lesbian? I'm like, where have you been? Look at me. Come on. Let's use our brains.
I guess the subconscious part of myself thought I need to go for really masculine men because that means that I'm really feminine. And then the more that I realised I don't need to be really feminine and that's part of myself, I think that was a really freeing moment.
The root of everything is love. I've got all of this love and I don't know where to place it. But over time, I'm going to learn how to.
Kat Burns, hi.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I feel like I've been seeing so much of you recently, both on screen and in person.
Literally, I feel like I've seen you loads.
I know. I just went to see Wicked.
I did. Oh my gosh.
I was sat behind you.
Yeah, me and my mum. My mum was actually, it was me. I was chomping off the popcorn.
Your mum. Oh my god. Yeah. Obsessed.
She's so cute.
Gorgeous.
She is, isn't she?
I was like, you birthed an icon.
And she just sat there like.
She was like, I know. So what have you been up to?
Oh my gosh. I feel like since I came back from tour, I've just been in sessions, just writing loads of new music, which has been really fun because I feel like I purposely didn't write any new music until after my album came out. And then once it did, I was like, I've got so much to say. Yeah. And I've just been in sessions and it's been really fun.
And what a whirlwind recently. Just all of the success so deserved.
Thank you.
Incredible to see you shining.
Thank you.
Let's talk about early 20s because incredible impact. I know that so many people are connecting with the lyrics as well as, you know, the entire era that you're creating. So can we talk about the process of creating early 20s?
Yeah, it was a long one. It took me about 3-4 years to write it, which I guess is good because it meant that I actually sort of took the time to experience my early 20s, write about those moments, and then put it out as I was nearing my mid 20s. But it was a journey. Like, it was finding the producers and stuff that I liked working with and had a real connection with. And once I did, it kind of just became a really cathartic thing for me, because a lot of people around me were experiencing a lot of things. Like, all of my friends were all kind of in the same age range, so we were kind of going through similar things, so it was really easy to sort of write about everyone's experiences, not just my own, which I think is why people connect to this album so much, because it's not just about my experience in my early 20s, it's about the people around me as well. So the process was really lovely, and I think it hopefully helped it kind of relate to a lot of people.
I know that it's connected with a lot of people. What are some of the stories that people have shared with you as a response to hearing the record?
Oh, a mix of things. Like, I think whenever people kind of come to me and tell me their favorite song on the album, I'll be like, right, okay, I know where you're at in life.
What's the common fave?
You know, I get there's one song on there called Low Self-Esteem, and loads of people tell me that they really like that one. And I'm like, oh, you must be going through some things at the moment. And then if someone comes to me and they're like, I really love Healing, I'm like, okay, we're on the other end. You're learning to accept yourself. Love it. Yeah.
I love that.
And then it's like, sometimes people will be like, go, and I'll be like, okay, so you're at the beginning. That's fine. So there's a mix of different ones that people seem to vibe with.
And ghosting?
Ghosting, people like ghosting's like a sleeper tune, I think. Like, people, I put it out a few years ago and I knew I wanted to have it on the album, because I know, especially with my friends, if I'm like quite sad, I just kind of recoil a little bit and go into my room and my bed, and like, I don't want to speak to anybody until I'm fine again. I've gotten better at not doing that, but like, at the time I wrote the song, that was definitely the type of person I was.
You need to let people be there for you.
Yeah. I
think it's really hard. I think I've learnt recently how to actually let people be there for you, be there for me, and it's you know, vulnerability at the end of the day, and like it's tough because like, really, none of us want to be hurt, but it's something that's so important to all connections, not just dating but also friendship.
No, I agree. I find it really hard to let people be there for me. I think I'm quite a hyper independent person, so then when I do let people in, I think my hyper independence has kind of made me not know exactly how I want to be looked after or helped. So then I just kind of don't ask. Whereas now I'm trying to learn and unpack that so that I can ask for help.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you ever been ghosted? Little pivot.
Have I ever been ghosted? I probably have. Back when I would
ghosted.
I was a ghoster. I was a ghoster in my past, but to be fair, in hindsight, it was for men, and I didn't like men. Clearly.
That doesn't count.
Yeah, I just did not
in
like
this,
men.
not in this instance.
No. So I used to ghost men,
Yeah,
but like not girls. Don't worry.
that's that. And I know that early 20s is such a formative time for so many people. Do you feel like a pressure to encapsulate that era in a way that resonates with so many people?
I think, luckily, I didn't feel too much of a pressure. I just kind of told myself, as long as we're honest and authentic about what we're experiencing, people will find it relatable, because we all live on the same earth. So 9 times out of 10, our experiences aren't going to be that unique. So most people will have experienced some level of what I'm going to be talking about in the songs. So I think, luckily, I didn't put too much pressure on myself, and I think that helped me make an authentic project.
And it's also really scary moving out of your early 20s and, you know, seeing 30 on the horizon, and looking at your life and thinking, am I where I want to be? Am I achieving what I want to achieve? Are the people in my life the right people?
Yeah.
So what advice would you have for anybody who's having that freak out, which is completely normal? If you're having that freak out, it's something that all of us have. But what advice would you give them?
Do you know what? I would probably just say, lead by your feelings. I think that's always the best way to start. Like, if you're kind of confused on where you're going or what you want to do, I think the best thing to start with is, what makes me feel good? What do I enjoy doing? Let me do more of that. Who in my life makes me feel good? Like, I think when you lead by feeling, it's easier to decipher what's right for you and what's not. I think, instead of always thinking like logistically, how can I, is this the right thing? Is this the right thing? Just kind of lead by, does this thing bring me joy? If not, maybe I should do less of this thing and more of this thing.
Trust your gut.
Yeah, trust your gut.
Listen to your body. Looking back at your early 20s and looking at your life now, what are the biggest changes?
Oh my God.
I mean, yeah, big question.
Oh my
but
God.
The top line.
So many changes. I think I thought I knew everything in my early 20s. Especially this year, I just got slapped with so many things of like, you don't know anything. And it's okay to not know everything and just kind of enjoy the process. I think I was really naive in my early 20s. And now I'm just kind of like, I've accepted that I don't know everything. And I'm more open to what life has in store for me. And I embrace the changes and the ups and downs and the letting people go and having new people in my life. Like, I'm more open to that, whereas before I really wasn't. Yeah,
the tough changes is something that, you really need to lean into, because that's where the growth is.
Exactly.
But it's tough.
So tough. So tough.
Has your approach to love and relationships shifted over time, or has it remained a constant? Are you still looking for the same things, or have you leaned into a different way of approaching love and relationships?
That's a really good question. I think I look for similar things, but it definitely has changed. I think before, in relationships or relationship, I've only been in one in the past, and I think I was more immature, but I was also quite young. So I think there was lots of things that I did that I wouldn't do now, just in terms of maturity things and really listening to the needs of somebody else and whether I could give that or whether I couldn't. And now at 24, approaching relationships now, I feel like there's so much more I can give just from growing up and being mature about situations. And I think I definitely look for someone who's very spiritually inclined and very like done the work. In like
so necessary.
Yeah, I think it's just because I've
attractive.
Done and very attractive. Exactly. I think over the last few months of my life, I've really wanted to do the work on myself and just kind of be consciously positive with how I speak to myself and what I speak over myself. So I'm really conscious about being with somebody who does the same, because it just makes your relationship like even better. So I look for the similar things. It's nice if you have similar interests, and nice if you can kind of relate on the things that bring you joy in terms of like hobbies and stuff. but it's more just someone who's open-minded to learning what those things are about me.
On the subject of being open, you're very open about your intersections, whether that be race or gender, sexuality, neurodivergence.
Yeah.
So how did that journey get started? Because it's such a power to be able to speak about who you are, how you feel, what you need. What advice would you give to someone that is looking to start their journey?
Within all of those intersectionalities,
or just being able to speak about who they are, because it's really something that takes, confidence and like self-assurance and, feeling like you've got the right people around you.
I think it definitely is a journey, because I think for me, I came out in 2020, and then about a year later I got my ADHD diagnosis, and then 2 years after that I got my autism diagnosis. And so that was definitely a process. And luckily I had and have a support network of people around me who have always just been so understanding and accepting and wanting to learn what that means and what that looks like for me. So then that kind of, the community I have around me gave me the confidence to feel like I could speak about it. So I think if there's anyone who also falls under any of those kind of intersectionalities that I do, would be kind of make sure you have that support network and you explain to them first kind of what needs you have and what that looks like for you. And then I think that will give you the courage to speak about that more openly and publicly. Because I think if I didn't have the support of my family when I came out, I wouldn't feel the confidence to talk so freely about my sexuality publicly. And the same with my autism diagnosis and ADHD, because I've got such a community around me that are so accepting and understanding. And naturally, I think even with neurodivergency, like for me anyway, I always find other neurodivergent people, so I don't feel different really at all.
I think that's the beauty of attracting.
Exactly.
We're all mirrors.
We are. Everything is a mirror. Yeah. And when you kind of accept that, life becomes so much.
Dating also.
Yeah.
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 When you realize that, is very interesting.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Because everything is just a projection.
Yeah.
And every time I walk around and someone says, "Oh, I can't do this," I'm like, "Why can't you do this?"
Yes.
It's everything
getting
is
out of your own way.
Exactly.
Yeah. You will thrive.
You will. You will.
Yes. Let's talk about the lesbian renaissance, because that is something that I have loved seeing this year, whether it's yourself or Chapel and the myriad of all different women who are coming out and expressing themselves in so many different ways. I mean, there's such variety out there, which is something that up until recently we just haven't seen in the same capacity. How does it feel to see that and also be part of that major cultural shift?
Do you know what? It's funny you say that, because at first I didn't really feel part of that renaissance.
Really? That's wild to me, because like looking at everything that you're putting out, I mean, I think you're part of many shifts. You cover so many different intersections and it's so beautiful. But also seeing the video, sorry, I'm going off on a tangent, but seeing the video of you and Rachel and Shingy singing, it made me cry.
Really?
Yeah, and I'm probably going to cry right now.
No.
I just feel like there was something that was so unspoken in that moment that was so connecting and that you don't see.
Yeah.
And it's, it's very similar to the lesbian renaissance, I feel, is, there's something for so many different kinds of women to see.
Yeah.
And I think that that's incredibly beautiful, but you should feel part of it because you're a major part of it.
Well, that's very kind of you to say. I mean, I'm glad that there's a renaissance coming up of so many different women, because there is, I think, there's so many different types of lesbians and lesbian artists that are making different types of, whether that's pop music or whether that's more punk pop or rock or indie. So I feel it's nice to be recognized within that space as well. It's nice.
I guess you never really feel like you're part of the thing that you are part of, because it's like authentic.
Yeah, exactly.
You're just doing your thing.
I just am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I feel the same in terms of being part of the trans rights movement in the UK. Yeah. You just, you do your part and you be yourself and you do what feels authentic to you. And then all of a sudden, a teenager comes up to you and says that it's helped them be themselves. Yeah. And then you realize, what you're part of is so special.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think we realize it because, we just are. So it's kind of hard, but it's nice to be recognized every so often.
Absolutely. You ready to play blind date box?
Yes.
Give it a twirl.
Okay. Okay.
Da-da-da. Can you give me your funniest date story?
Oh. Oh. Well then. Okay, I don't know if it's funny.
Is it shareable?
It is. It was when I was dating a man.
Uh-huh.
And
I understand.
he was really late to the date. It was Valentine's Day. This was pre me coming out. He was really late to the date. So I was in a silly, goofy mood because I was like, you're late and this is really bad. We had a nice date and the bill came. As a joke, he had his like wallet on the table, and as a joke, I took it and just slowly moved it towards the bill and like was just like, it was a joke. I was very happy to go halves and I was paying for dates with men anyway. So I pushed it over towards him as a joke and I did like a funny face. And he was like, that was really rude. Like, how dare you do that? And he like got really offended. And I was like, it was a joke. And then I knew in that moment I would never see him again. There was also another date with a man where I walked in and I just looked at him and I was like, no. Oh. I was like, I am in hell.
Sorry to that man.
Yeah, I was just like, no. He wasn't bad looking. I just walked in and I was just like, oh,
the energy was off, the vibe was off.
Yeah. So then I sat down and I was just like, this is so long. But I can talk to anyone. So then I was just like, we'll have a nice time at least. But I walked in and I just thought, no way.
How long was the date?
Like 2 hours.
You gave it a good go.
I gave it a go.
Yeah.
But
I thought you were like, nope, and then walked straight out the door.
If it's because we caught eyes. Yeah. If we didn't, I probably would have been like, and left. But he saw me. So then I was like, hey. And then I had to sit down. But it was fine. But I was just like, no.
Yeah. Sometimes it's like that. Sometimes you just know.
You just know as soon as you walk in. You're just like, the energy is just off.
Yeah. And do you have any advice for any young queer black people, especially in this climate where we're facing such polarization on so many different fronts? It's very difficult to stay optimistic.
I think I would say don't forget to look after yourself and find moments of stillness, because sometimes, well, we're made to feel that our mere existence is political, and sometimes we can kind of get lost in that. So I think just having some moments sometimes where you can just like, what self-care things can you do just to kind of just be able to just, it's hard to explain. I think maybe you get what I mean. Like just
get back to yourself.
Yeah, get back to yourself and just
rather than be seen as like an ideology or a conversation. Yeah.
Exactly. And just like make sure like you have your community of people around you. That because I for me, like my bubble is so queer that it's only really when I see the news and I'm interacting with that is when I'm like, oh my gosh, this is not the same as the bubble that I've created. So I think having some moments where you can just reconnect with the people that your echo chamber, make sure you're still interacting with your echo chamber, and not letting the news and the media define you, but also kind of speak up where we can, but also make sure you're looking after yourself in the process of that.
Going into dating, how can we be more unapologetic and coming to the table, but also being empathetic to other people, but prioritizing ourselves and listening to what we need and then expressing that?
Oh, that's a really good question. I think take your time when you date someone. I always like to kind of ask people like, how do you like to be loved? For them to kind of come back and say, this is how I like to be loved, and have those honest conversations, and also be really firm on what your boundaries are and what things you're not willing to waver on, but also know how to decipher whether that's just like a frivolous sort of surface level thing or whether that is really intrinsic to who you are and whether that would be changing who you are. So I think really knowing what your boundaries are, then kind of coming into dating with that, so that if somebody kind of oversteps that, you can be like, hey, don't overstep this boundary of mine. And if you do, I won't be around.
Period.
Yeah.
Love that. Something that I've really been trying to push myself through is acknowledging the patterns and the types that I go for.
Interesting.
And questioning why I go for these types, especially as a trans woman, recognizing that my types historically have kind of patterned my need for validation,
right,
and that hasn't always been healthy.
Yeah.
And I feel like, I mean, some validation is healthy, but a lot of it isn't.
Yep.
So I think it's going on a journey with yourself and not just lapsing in, I find this person sexually attractive, so therefore they're my type. And that's quite a surface way to get to know someone. So yeah, and also as a bisexual woman, I feel like, you know, I've got so much more choice.
Absolutely. But I think that as well, because I like something that always like stuck with me was the saying of you meet people where you've met yourself. And I always say to my friends who have been in like kind of toxic things, or they like keep attracting a person that ends up being quite toxic, I'm like, where have you met yourself before you start looking at them? Because if everything's a mirror, you need to look inwards about what is it about yourself that you're not respecting or you're not working on, that you need to maybe affirm more for you to attract somebody that's met themselves in the same place. Because if you want somebody who's a really great communicator and is all of these things, are you those things?
Yeah.
Before you can ask the universe for that. And I found like once I did the work, then I was attracting people that were also doing the work, and the dynamics that I was finding myself in was like, oh my gosh, this is really great. So and then it's like, feels like a nice confirmation from the universe that it's like, oh, I'm doing the right things because I'm attracting people that are really lovely.
Definitely. Definitely. I used to go for the most masculine of men. I'm still into masculine men. But I think it's because I was negotiating my femininity within society.
Right.
So I guess the subconscious part of myself thought I need to go for really masculine men because that means that I'm really feminine. And then the more that I realized I don't need to be really feminine, and that's part of myself and a lot of myself that is very much, you know, kind of that resonates with the non-binary, the androgyny of it all. And I think that was a really freeing moment. Also listening to the perspectives of non-binary people, because I really feel like that frees all of us from gender roles that are so limiting for everyone, trans, non-binary, cisgender. All of us need to kind of think about a way to live outside of these roles, because if it serves you, then great, but a lot of the time it doesn't.
It really doesn't. And I think especially when you look at black women as well, we've historically been masculinized. And a lot of the black women in my life and that I know are super feminine in terms of how they present, and then I know sometimes they'll see themselves as these like, definitely my sister and me growing up, we would always see ourselves as these kind of like bullish type of people that just we're really loud when we come into rooms, just in terms of our energy. And we were like, that's just society making us feel that way. So once we unpack what femininity and masculinity actually means to us, you then kind of free yourself from living within those realms. Absolutely. And
I think what grew out of that was actually starting to date men that are a little bit more feminine. And like, I guess in whatever way that could be, not necessarily just visually, but like also maybe visually, but people and men that are questioning what masculinity especially means, because I feel like that traditionally can be a little bit more harmful than femininity. I mean, if we look at the world, masculinity is definitely a lot more harmful. So when you're negotiating those parts of yourself that could, if being unchecked, could lead to harm to yourself or to me, I think that's a really attractive thing.
Absolutely. With women, what do you look for?
I think someone who isn't necessarily as much of a mirror. I think my relationships with women are like rarer because the connection is so much deeper.
I've heard this before. Okay.
And also it's difficult. I feel like there's levels to bisexuality.
Right.
I'm very deep in mine, but I feel like there's a lot of women who don't necessarily take their bisexuality seriously and don't necessarily see it as a viable relationship option. And
to date women.
Yeah, because when like men are also in the picture, it, you know, the roles and the expectations, the societal kind of narratives can kind of like get in the way a lot of the time. But I think that the best relationships that I've had, some of the best relationships that I've had have been with women, and especially also another trans woman. She was the love of my life.
Oh my gosh.
Little tidbit.
I love this.
Okay. How do you feel when a Tinder profile includes a witty bio? Does it show personality, or are they trying too hard?
Oh, it shows personality. I think it means you've got a good sense of humor. And then it's easy for someone to like message about that.
It's interesting. I think we've had some guests that are like, no,
Really?
Yeah, it's not the place to be funny. I don't know how I feel. I feel sometimes when you're funny but you're not actually funny, it can kind of crash. But I think also just comedy or like humor is a good way to be open.
Yeah, I feel like it's an easy way to sort of start a conversation. You've got something to prompt you, because saying just hey is
in your bio.
Well, then if you don't have anything of note in your bio, then it's just kind of like someone's just going, hey, and then you're kind of having to pluck a conversation out of thin air. Whereas if you have something witty, it's easy for someone to like respond to your bio, you know?
Also showcase yourself, like,
exactly,
you know, like be a cheerleader to yourself, like hype yourself up. I think that we've all got so many different parts of ourselves. It's important to show that, especially if you're like wanting to attract the right people. I think it's really great to, I mean, I personally love I want to know your hobbies. If you've got any, I want to know like what you're into. I want to know your politics. I want to know like all of that kind of stuff. And it also I agree. Just like trims the fat a little bit.
It does. I agree.
Yeah. One more?
Yeah.
How important is picking the right outfit for you before a date, and how do you decide what to wear? Are we casual? Are we dressy?
It depends on what we're doing. If we're doing like an activity, then I'll do like something more casual. It is really important to me just because I know how annoying it is. Like if I put on an outfit and then like I haven't got like enough time to change, and I look at myself in the mirror and I'm like, oh, I look so dead. Or like I just didn't put the outfit together as well as I could have. And I know it's like really frustrating. So I like to make sure that I look good, because then I can walk into the situation feeling confident in myself, that I've like presented myself as authentically as I can. So it depends on what we're doing. If it's like a dinner kind of situation, then I'll dress for that and dress like more formal. Yeah. And then if it's like just like a chilled activity where we might be like moving around a lot, then I'll do something chill.
I like to forget about my outfit.
Ah, interesting.
Do you know what I mean? I like to dress so that I can forget about my outfit.
Yes.
And just be present.
Yeah, but you want to like how you look.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But I feel like liking how you look means that you're not focused on how you look.
Whoa. Say that one more time for the people in the back.
Like liking how you look means that you're not focused on how you look.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah?
I agree.
Wow.
And the second time you said it, then I was like,
I feel like I short-wired your brain.
The first time you said it, I was like, wait, what? And then when you said
it's like acceptance, isn't it? It's kind of, just like, a neutrality, but a happy neutrality. Just like, I feel like I look good, and I look good, so I don't need to think about how I look, and I don't need to worry about
how I'm being perceived.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I agree.
And being perceived is like my ultimate fear.
Same. I hate
I'm in the wrong job for this.
Same. Oh my God, literally same.
It's
I
like
hate
a
being
balance,
perceived.
isn't it? Of, putting yourself out there, but also just like kind of getting over that fear and pushing yourself to, getting over the worry about being perceived.
Literally. It's so, I'm the exact same.
It's so crazy. I actually read that fear of perception is actually your relationship again with yourself, and it's projecting onto other people. Yeah. And it's like looking for it.
Yeah.
Rather than actually just accepting that you're actually hitting the right people. You're like looking for the negative things.
Yeah. Because it's usually if someone says something, it can only bother you if you've already got an insecurity about it anyway. If you don't, then it won't bother you.
Period. Can we talk about the intersections, a little pivot here?
Yes.
The intersections of mental health and love, because like we're talking about, people that work on themselves is an extremely attractive thing. And your song Anxiety, can you talk a little bit about that?
Anxiety, well, it's so interesting. All of these songs that I wrote years ago were pre all of my diagnoses, but anxiety particularly, I tend to personify lots of things, and kind of, and I wanted to have a song where I personified anxiety, because I knew it wasn't all of me. It was just this part of me that was kind of, and obviously if you've seen like Inside Out 2, I think they talk about it perfectly, where it's just this thing that is like trying to protect you, but it's not doing it in the way that actually serves you or helps you with it in sort of any way. So I wanted to make a song where I personified it and spoke to it and said like, hey, I'm not asking you to completely leave my life, which is why I loved Inside Out 2 so much, because it's like at the end of the film, they found a place for anxiety to be. And it was like, sometimes we can look to you because sometimes it is helpful, but you controlling my existence is not helpful. So I wanted to have a song where I was kind of saying, look, someone invited me to go to a party, and instead of being a scaredy cat, maybe I could be like a bit confident, and maybe you don't need to take the reins for this. I think there's going to be people here that I like, and it's going to be fun, and we're going to have a good time. So it's kind of me trying to reason with myself. And I talk to myself a lot. So it's kind of a song where I'm just literally talking to myself the whole time.
I love that.
Yeah.
How did you learn to speak kindly to yourself? Because that's something that takes time and work. And once you recognize how you talk to yourself, I feel like it's a choice to talk to yourself badly.
Yeah.
But it's like getting to that point to realize that this is a choice, this relationship that you have with yourself. You don't have to hate yourself. So what was the turning point for you?
The spring this year for me was the biggest turning point. I lost my granddad.
I'm sorry.
And went through a breakup basically at the same time. And I am a weirdo and look at my life in kind of like a long, either like a tapestry or like kind of a long stick or a long rope.
A very different comparison.
Yeah, like some sort, either like a painting or like a long sort of stick or rope. And like there's just like different moments in it. And I saw that moment as a really defining moment in my life. And I just asked myself, do I want to go into a deep hole of just sadness and never really come out? And I've got people in my life who that's happened to and they've never come out of it. Or do I want to use this moment to completely embrace the change? Because no matter how much I would love to go back to what was, I'm never gonna be able to go back. So do I embrace this change and become the person I've always wanted to be and create this new life and new world? Or do I stay here and not move from it? And once I started to embrace my new life, I decided to read a lot of books. I started reading, there was one book I read called There's a Spiritual Solution to Every Problem. And after I read that, it started to rewire my brain a bit. And I was like, whoa, life really does come from you, not at you. And once I did that, obviously with that, once you read one book, there's recommendations that come from that book. And then I just went on a deep dive of real spiritual self-help books. And from there, I started to realize how important it is to speak kindly over yourself. And when I was going through the first couple of weeks of grieving, is just, you're kind of just in a weird, just
you
mist.
need to feel it.
Yeah. And what I did was just, I looked after myself whilst feeling sad. So, and anytime I felt the wave of grief come, I just welcomed the emotion. But instead of using that as an opportunity to be mean to myself whilst feeling sad, I just spoke to myself like I would my child. And I was just like, it's okay, we're safe. It's okay. It makes sense why we're feeling this way. Just feel it. I've got you. And I noticed after like a month, 2 months, I was like, wow, I feel closer to myself than I've ever felt. Because every time I feel sad, I just reassure myself. And then I noticed how key that was in attracting good things into my life, because it was, instead of, I try and, even if I'm like, I weirdly feel sad today, I just remove the weirdly. I feel sad today, and we don't need to know why.
Yeah, I think it's really important to mark that you can feel two things at once. We often talk about like, I'm happy or I'm sad, but finding, I've had a lot of grief as well in the last 2 years, and also just a breakup also. But the happy times within those sad times, I think that that's so powerful, that you can generate a personal power and also experience the joy within the darkness and not feel guilty or not feel, well, no, I should be feeling sad right now. So sadness is the only thing that I'm open to. And then you start to slowly break yourself out of it, because you realize that life is just going to keep lifing. And if you if you are waiting for a break, then you're probably not going to get one, or it's not going to last. So, oh God, I sound dark today. But like, it's true. It's, life is just going to keep adding to the pot. So you need to find a way to be happy now in it. And sustain that personal power and know that you've got the choice in how you react to it.
Absolutely. I had a session, and one of the writers was like, life is indifferent. Life is just gonna keep throwing things. It's just, things are gonna happen that are out of your control. And our perception will shape everything. If you choose to take that thing as a negative thing, then it will be a negative thing. But if you choose to see the elements of positivity in it
Yeah.
or something that you can grow from, it
Mhm.
opens up just so much more. But it's hard.
It's really hard. Something that I've done to train my mind to change how I feel about those moments. Like, this is going to sound really crazy,
No,
but
I'm crazy too.
yeah, well, thank
I'm a
God.
kumbaya, my lord type of person now.
Yes. My dog died 2 weeks ago.
Oh no.
And it was like heartbreaking, but on the way she was like having a seizure. It's taken a turn. She was having a seizure on the way to the vets, and I remember just saying like, thank you, because even though I know right now I can't see how this is going to help me grow, I know that this like love and this grief that I'm experiencing is going to allow me to be a more loving person eventually.
Yeah.
And I feel like saying thank you in those moments trains your mind to not feel so resistant
Yes.
to those like
Yep.
earth-shattering moments, because you know death is also natural as love.
It is.
So it's really important that we don't fear it.
Yeah. And I think the root of everything is love. Grief is love. And I think that was something I kind of did to myself. Anytime I felt sad or grieving or I was just like confused, I was like, the root of all of this is love. And I've got all of this love and I don't know where to place it. But over time, I'm going to learn how to. And I think when you lose someone or something or a pet or just something that you put so much love into, you really do learn. Like, it made me even more vulnerable with all my friends. Prior to my granddad passing, I didn't really cry with my friends, only my partner at the time. And then once that happened, it just opened up a new level of deepness I could get to with lots of people in my life.
Isn't it? When you pay attention, you realize what's happening, and it brought me so much closer to my remaining 2 dogs.
Yeah.
And I just feel so much closer to them.
Yeah.
Because I appreciate their life on another level that I maybe wouldn't have had if I had experienced that loss.
Wow,
so it's like, you know, obviously nothing's going to bring back my dogs, so you need to take need to take the good parts. Can we talk about first loves?
Yeah.
When did you first fall in love, and
Gosh.
how did it feel?
I was 20. It was a whirlwind. It actually kind of was, to be honest. It was a really lovely relationship. It was 3.5 years. And we got on really well. We were really good friends. We had a really deep friendship. And that was the first time experiencing love and learning just what that looked like. Because I obviously love my friends and love my family, but I had never experienced love in a romantic way and like really caring about somebody and how that kind of showed up in me. So it was really lovely.
Such a formative thing.
Very.
I feel, because again, you see yourself in a completely different way. It's not just falling in love with another person. I feel like you realize that you can love and that you can receive love.
Yes.
And that in itself is monumental.
Absolutely. And I think being autistic as well, that person becomes your safe person. That person becomes the person you feel like is the only one that really gets to see you when you're unmasked and you can just be with them. So I think that added an extra layer of connection, because the world is so hard to feel understood by the world. So having that person is so nice. So where you can just come back and just be like, oh, and like not be judged for it.
Absolutely. Lover or friend.
Exactly.
When it comes to modern dating, so many different ways to date in this age. What is a key piece of advice that you would like to pass on to viewers when it comes to starting a relationship or dating?
Ooh, I would say take the time to date and ask the real questions. I think we get lost in sometimes just like the frivolous type of questions people speak about on dates, where you're not really getting to know the person that well. Or you do ask the deep questions, but you don't take it seriously. It's like, if you meet somebody and they say they don't want kids and you want kids, maybe you should. Yeah. Maybe you shouldn't be.
It's a pretty big thing.
Yeah. Maybe you shouldn't be together instead of getting 4 or 5 years down the line and the person's still like, hey, I still don't want kids, but now you're 4 years into a relationship. So I think it's kind of going into things with, if people show you who they are, believe them.
Oh, love it.
Yeah.
Can't do small talk.
Neither can I.
Oh my God, I'm the worst.
I can't. I'll just sit there and look at you.
Yeah, I'm literally just like, tell me your deepest and darkest and most salacious things that you can possibly think of.
I feel because I'm such an oversharer. I just share my whole life story. Yeah. So then if you don't, I'm like, why are you not sharing your whole life story? I need to know everything about you.
Yeah, I don't know. I want to know all of that stuff. And I feel like it's a good foundation as well, because I think a lot of people feel like they're worried about people knowing the real them. They're worried about those parts that they feel are unlovable. And I feel like coming to the table, maybe not if it's not the first date, but I think pretty soon on, like, I want to love those parts of you. I want to know those parts of you.
But it helps you understand. It helps you build a bigger picture of them if they react a certain way or something. You've got context to add to things. It's not a justification, but we need context in somebody's life, because it's harder to understand them if we don't have that.
And you also know what to give them.
Exactly.
You know, like you know what they need. And also, I mean, I love to make people feel loved.
Same.
And I think it's easier to make someone feel loved if you know how they need to be loved.
Exactly.
Yeah. The future. Can we talk about the future?
Yes.
You've achieved so much this year alone, but the last couple of years have been such a whirlwind. What do you hope for 2025?
I hope for 2025 that the people that are meant to find my music continue to find it. I think I'm still in a discovery point. I think people are discovering me. So it's really nice when you say like I'm part of the lesbian renaissance, because I always think people don't realize that I am queer and a lesbian. Like I will post about it and people will be like, what? She's a lesbian? And I'm like, where have you been? Look at me. Come on, let's use our brains. But I think I want and I hope for more people to find my music and to be connected to it. I think the new stuff is really fun.
Can you give us like a little inkling into some of the themes that you're going to be singing about?
It's definitely, I talk about girls more.
Nice.
In my songs, which I did before, but I think it's more fun. It's like more poppy. There's more beat. There's more of a beat. And I kind of, it's more fun, kind of queer pop. I think that I've got some songs that are giving that vibe, which is fun.
Are you dating right now?
I am.
How's it going?
Good.
Enjoying?
I am.
Okay.
It's fun. It's nice. It's good. She's a nice person.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. How did you find each other?
Oh my gosh.
And any advice for anybody who is, setting up their Tinder profile? If you saw your partner on their Tinder profile, how would you describe them?
Oh my gosh. I would probably say very duality.
Okay. Like
there's a 365 party girl, but then also like can lay in a forest.
We love multitudes.
Yeah, and touch grass. So I think for people's profiles, maybe just like have a bit of fun, crack some jokes, say a Nando's order or something. Just do like something like fun for someone to like reply to.
Yeah.
That's what I'd probably say.
We love that solid advice.
Yeah.
I love you. I love you so much.
I love you too.
Thank you so much for coming to see me. You're incredible. You've inspired so many over the last year, and it's incredible to see you grow as your friend, but also as a fan.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me. We've had such a lovely chat.
Always, always. It's a joy. Thank you.
Thank you.